Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to tackle something that can feel, well, a little complicated, the architecture of justice in Kenya. But don't worry, we're going to break it all down into a really simple framework. So let's get started. Okay, so let's just start with the most basic question you can ask. When we talk about the law, what are we actually talking about? I mean, where does it all come from? Where does its authority really originate? To answer that, you have to look at the legal foundation. You can think of it as the official rule book, right? The thing that sets out the rules of the game for the entire country. And this pyramid visual is the perfect way to understand it. At the very top, you've got the most powerful source of law. Everything below it, and I mean everything, from laws passed by parliament to decisions made by judges, even things like customary law, it all has to align with what's at the top. And this right here, this is the peak of that pyramid. It couldn't be clearer. The Constitution of Kenya is the ultimate authority. As Article 2 says, it is the supreme law. So if any other rule or law contradicts it, well, the Constitution wins, every single time. It's the source from which all other laws must flow. Okay, so we've got the rules of the game, but who are the referees? Whose job is it to interpret and apply all these laws? Well, that brings us to the courts and their very specific hierarchy. This diagram gives us a great bird's-eye view of that structure. You see at the bottom, we've got the subordinate courts. That's the first stop for most everyday legal issues. But from there, cases can be appealed up to the chain, moving to the High Court, then the Court of Appeal, and finally, right up to the very top, the Supreme Court. Let's break that down a little more, because it's really a system of two tiers. You've got the subordinate courts on the front lines, handling the bulk of day-to-day cases. Then you have the superior courts. They're the one that tackle the really heavy stuff, major criminal and civil cases, appeals from those lower courts, and of course, the big, critical questions about how to interpret the Constitution itself. And at the absolute pinnacle of this whole structure, you'll find the Supreme Court. And here they are, the judges who have the final say on Kenyan law. The court is made up of a Chief Justice, a Deputy Chief Justice, and 5 other judges. And believe me, their word is final. When the Supreme Court makes a decision, that's it. It becomes binding for every single other court in the country. There's no further appeal. It is literally the end of the legal road. But wait a minute. How does a court know which cases it's supposed to handle? I mean, a high court judge can't just pick a case at random, right? Of course not. And this is where a really vital concept called jurisdiction comes into play. To put it simply, jurisdiction is just a court's official power to hear a case. I love this definition. Think of it as a court's job description. It spells out exactly what kinds of cases it can decide, the geographical area it covers, and even the amount of money that can be involved in a dispute. Now, 2 of the most important types are original and appellate jurisdiction. Original jurisdiction means the court has the power to hear a case for the very first time, when it's brand new. Appellate jurisdiction, on the other hand, is the power to review a case that's already been decided by a lower court. Makes sense, right? Jurisdiction can also be about money, which we call pecuniary jurisdiction. Take this number, for example, 20 million Kenyan shillings. That figure represents the absolute maximum value of a civil case that a chief magistrate's court can hear. If the dispute is worth even 1 shilling more than that, it has to start in a higher court. So, we've got the rules and we've got the referees. Now let's see how this whole system works in a real-world situation. We're going to look at a concept known as a tort, which is a type of civil wrong that isn't necessarily a crime. So, what on earth is a tort? Well, it's basically a wrongful act that messes with someone's rights and causes them some kind of harm, which then leads to civil legal liability. The key thing to remember here is that it's a wrong committed against another person, not against the state. This table lays out the difference perfectly. With a tort, you have one individual suing another, and the goal is usually compensation, money to try and make things right for the victim. But with a crime, it's the state that prosecutes the wrongdoer, and the goal there is all about punishment and deterring others. Now, the most common type of tort, and one you have definitely heard of, is negligence. This isn't about someone intentionally trying to hurt you. It's all about causing harm through carelessness, just by failing to be reasonably careful. And if you want to win a negligence claim in court, you, the injured party, have to prove these 3 things. It's a simple, logical test. First, did the other person owe you a duty of care? Second, did they breach that duty by being careless? And third, did that breach directly cause the harm you suffered? You have to prove all 3. So, wow, we've gone all the way from the Constitution through the court system and down to a specific legal claim like negligence. But let's pull back for a second. Why does this whole intricate structure even matter? Here's the most important takeaway. This layered system creates predictability and order. That's the whole point. It makes sure that everyone, from regular citizens all the way up to the government itself, is operating under the same set of known rules. It gives us a clear, structured path for solving our disputes and making sure our rights are protected. And that really leaves us with a final question to think about. When laws are clear, when the courts are organized, and when the procedures are predictable, what effect does that have on society as a whole? How does a system like this, one designed for clarity and consistency, actually help build the foundation of a stable and just nation? Thanks so much for joining us on The Explainer.